Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So recently I've been talking a lot about this uncompleted survival mechanism and emotional repression and suppression that I think leads to a lot of this uncompleted and unfinished survival mechanisms that can in turn then perpetuate a lot of these horrible symptoms that we see as this survival mechanism tries again and again and again to finally complete. So when I first came across this notion of emotions and emotional repression and suppression, I found it a bit woo-woo, to be honest, and a bit kind of nonsense. But following my experiences, the profound experiences that I had on the silent meditation retreat, which was horrendous, and I've got another video on that, but truly, truly horrible and tied in so clearly the link between feeling emotions and outpouring of emotions and then feeling fine afterwards, only for symptoms to come back. It really highlighted to me how emotions are not just some kind of abstract thing, but they are a real physiological and biological mechanism. They produce a psychological and physiological state within your body, and that has a kind of biological imperative, right? There's a reason you feel certain things. It's a biological drive for you to do some stuff. And when you don't feel these things fully, and when you don't allow them to complete, that that energy, so to speak, has to go somewhere. And I often hate this how this word kind of energy has been turned into a sort of colloquial woo-woo term, but it is a very real thing. The kind of energy that arises when you're in this kind of emotional, heightened, aroused state, there's a very physical and visceral energy that does arise. And for whatever reason, if you suppress them, if you repress it, you don't allow that energy and that survival mechanism to complete, it has to go somewhere. And it will stay lodged and stay stuck in your system and building your allostatic load over time if you keep doing this again and again and again until you have some kind of trigger, which so many of us will have had. Now this ties me quite nicely onto brain training and one of the kind of more common approaches for how people would deal with this. So obviously, I've got a lot of benefit from doing brain training. I've done the Gupta program, Lightning process. I've had some insight into DNRS, and a lot of you will probably have come across them as well. And I did get some benefit. I think having this notion and this idea where I could notice the symptoms, I would become aware of the kind of patterns and spirals that I was going down, and then interrupting them. I found that very helpful. I found it really useful to become aware and get a kind of introduction to this kind of unconscious loop that might be perpetuating certain symptoms. But I really think where it falls short, and I get a lot of questions about how do I do it properly, how do I do it perfectly, is brain training very often becomes another form of repression and suppression or distraction. So whether it be Gupta, whether it be the lightning process, whatever it might be, they will teach you to stop, to notice, become aware of the symptoms that are there, and then you would distract yourself. You would move away from the symptoms. Maybe you'd get your little chart down on the ground and you'd move yourself, and then you'd visualize. And all of this is another form of repression and distraction. And in doing this, you're not allowing that survival mechanism, that the survival energy that is building up and is very much prevalent and there and on the surface and ready to complete. You're not allowing it to do so because you're engaging in another form of distraction and repression, whether it be a visualization, whether it be a mantra, whatever it is. And you're not allowing yourself to sit there with that sensation and allowing it to come to the surface naturally. So I think there is a time and a place for these types of things. For example, with regulation techniques as well. I think doing regulation techniques such as breath work or self-soothing can be useful when you're in a state of acute crisis. It can be very useful. It produces real physiological changes, vagus nerve, all of this kind of thing. It can be really useful in a certain setting. But what happens is you start doing it as a tool in itself to remove the symptoms on every occasion. And in doing so, again, you are repressing, you are distracting, you are pushing down that needs to come up and needs to be felt and needs to complete. Excuse me. And so all you're doing is producing another coping and distraction mechanism. And you're not allowing that mechanism to come up to complete. And maybe it feels good in the moment. Maybe, you do your deep breathing and you do feel a little bit better. Maybe you get your mat out, you put it down, you turn to the side, you go down the green part, whatever it is, you say a little mantra, whatever. It can be quite soothing and therapeutic, and you might notice a change afterwards. But all you are doing, I think, is suppressing and pushing away that energy that needs to surface and needs to come up. And you're not letting it do so. So the kind of approach that I have taken with this, and especially since this silent meditation retreat, where I had the worst bizarre symptoms, I had my brainstem felt on fire, I had these jolting pains through my chest, deep into my belly. And it would be simply to sit with the sensations. So on a very practical level, I would notice it, whether it's ruminating thoughts, the horrible deep pain in my lower back, the deep-seated fatigue that makes your bones feel like they're full of concrete and lead. And I would sit and I would pull my awareness out of my brain, out of that cognitive narrative that you tell yourself about whatever's going on, and pull it into the awareness. And I would just notice and allow that awareness to bleed down into my body and feel what is going on, feel that tension, feel the vibration in my head, the deep pain in my chest. And I would just notice it, and I would sit with it, and I would be aware of it. And I'm not going to bullshit you. It's so shit. It's so deeply, deeply unpleasant. And it will continue to be deeply unpleasant for days and weeks and months. But little by little, as you sit with whatever is there, you notice whatever is there, and you just feel into whatever is there, you're allowing that mechanism to finally start to complete. To teach your body that it's okay to feel whatever is going on, and to teach it that it can surface and start to dislodge very gently. And the goal is not to get rid of it. The goal is to stick with it and teach your body that it's safe to feel. Now, it might feel nice in the moment to stop and do your visualization and get your mat down on the floor and do the deep breathing. That might feel better in the moment. But again, that is just distracting and pushing that off for a later day. So I would sit there, I would notice, and I would let it be, and I would just feel into it. And I think there's a lot of concern about, am I doing it correctly? Do I need to do it right? When you're noticing this and you're allowing this mechanism to complete, and you're allowing the survival mechanism to surface and to exercise itself, there's no scripted mantra that you need to do, or is it going to be natural, or turn a certain way, or do all of these kind of things. This is a survival mechanism that is executing. If you've seen my video about the gazelle and when they're in the wild and they're doing this shaking mechanism when they're dispelling this kind of energy from their survival response, there's nothing scripted about that. So you might notice when you're sat there within the sensations, you're feeling the symptoms, you might notice that you need to lash out. Maybe you need to shake, maybe you need to scream, maybe you need to just sit there. There's no performative way to do this. It's simply to allowing it to surface and to continue along that road. So I hope that was helpful. And I've actually put together a free resource in my community. So On The Mend, it's free to join, and you can just get access to like a little 7-day resource there, because I have found it incredibly useful to have this structure and this knowledge of what to do in the moment, but then also some kind of set exercises, whether it be a bilateral stimulation, EMDR style inspired techniques, to help that process and help that access to that kind of subconscious layer to allow that processing to take place. So I put together a little course that you can access in the description. And I also would encourage you to practice being with the sensations, noticing, being aware, feeling into them. But I would also encourage you to practice some of the kind of somatic type techniques as well. And for me, I've gained immense benefit from EMDR, from working with therapists, with working with somatic practitioners who can help you to kind of feel and allow whatever is there, but help using some of these kind of techniques like the bilateral stimulation to encourage that process to take place. And I found that very, very useful as well. So I hope that was helpful. If you take anything away from this video today, I just encourage you to, whenever you're noticing symptoms, whenever you're noticing sensations, sit with them, be with them, drop into your body, feel your awareness bleed around them, and don't try and push them away. And if you can just sit with them and you can be non-judgmentally aware and around those symptoms just for a fraction of a second, then that is progress and that is success. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is reassuring or not reassuring, but it will feel shit, and it will feel shit for a long, long time yet. But that is completely natural. It's part of the process, and that's how it goes in this game. So I hope that was good. I will see you guys very soon, and stay healthy.